The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
Last night, what we saw was 3 individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself.
A night of violence in Minnesota pushes President Trump towards invoking the Insurrection Act. What led to a second shooting in Minneapolis as officials race to control the rhetoric?
If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result.
Then the new Great American Health Care Plan, how the president's plan differs from Congress's attempt to extend Affordable Health Care Act tax subsidies. Plus, technology, social media, and America's youth. Why lawmakers say screen time limits could help protect kids and teens online. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. Well, several people have been arrested on the streets in Minneapolis as anti-ICE protesters face off against law enforcement this afternoon. That's according to Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, who spoke with Fox News over the phone earlier this afternoon. The FBI just issuing a $100,000 reward for the arrest of any vandals related to last night's protests. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says the city is in an unsustainable situation as President Donald Trump has threatened Minnesota officials with invoking the Insurrection Act to get protests under control.
This is an impossible situation that our city is presently being put in. And at the same time, we are trying to find a way forward to keep people safe, to protect our neighbors, to maintain order.
And you don't see these riots and this vandalism taking place in states like Florida. Why? Because you have a governor in that state who has empowered federal and local authorities to work together.
Today's protests also come after another shooting involving a federal agent. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the agent was executing a targeted operation against a known Venezuelan illegal alien. The agent was then ambushed and attacked as others came to the aid of the suspect.
They used a shovel or a broom to smash his face in. And so, yes, that agent had to use self-defense and take up his weapon to protect his own life.
According to Homeland Security, both the agent and the suspect who was shot are recovering in the hospital. Neither is facing life-threatening injuries. The others who ambushed the agent were taken into custody. Of course, you can stay with us as we continue to track the latest developments coming out of Minneapolis throughout the night. We'll have coverage for you both here on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. YouTuber Nick Shirley first captured the nation's attention last month with a video highlighting the rampant daycare fraud in Minnesota. Shirley releasing another video Wednesday, deep diving another angle of the alleged social services fraud, non-emergency medical transportation. National correspondent Kayla Kaskins has been digging into that story and has it from Washington.
The alleged fraud in Minnesota runs deep. An estimated $9 billion of taxpayer money allegedly stolen through a wide range of social services schemes, from daycares with no children to fake food services for the hungry. The latest allegations zero in on non-emergency medical transportation businesses.
What I think might be sort of the heart of the beast here is this transportation fraud
that are billing the state for millions of dollars for rides that allegedly never happened. Viral conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley digging into this arm of the alleged fraud web in his latest video published Wednesday.
Do you guys know where advanced mobility is? Do you guys know where advanced mobility is? Advanced mobility? Yeah, we're looking for it.
In some cases, the addresses given on the state paperwork lead to liquor stores, money transfer companies, and personal residences, but not transportation services.
Looking for Safari Transportation?
No, there's no Safari Transportation here.
But this is registered for Safari Transportation, 607.
That's the address.
Okay, we don't know.
This is fraud taking place.
A large portion of the social service fraud in Minnesota are connected to Somali-run businesses. For example, Somalis reportedly own 90% of these transportation businesses in the state.
You hate Muslims.
I'm not saying I hate Muslims. We're talking about fraud. This is fraud.
Are we the only community that suffers because of fraud?
We're talking about fraud.
Are we the only community that does fraud?
The Somali community is a powerful political force in the state, causing critics to speculate that's why the alleged fraud was allowed to reach such a massive scale.
The man who's running the daycare, he was celebrating with Mayor Fry after he won re-election of mayor inside of Minneapolis. And then this lady right here seems to be a friend of Ilhan Omar.
In the wake of the fraud scandals, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz stepped back from his re-election bid.
I came to the conclusion that I can't give a political campaign my all.
And Taylor, Nick Shirley will be here on Capitol Hill next Wednesday to testify before Congress about what he's reported regarding this alleged fraud in Minnesota.
Wow. So, Kayla, what else do we know about next week's hearing?
So the hearing will be held by the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Federal Government Surveillance. The focus will be on the Minnesota fraud allegations. Shirley will testify alongside a nonprofit healthcare executive and a former Minnesota police officer, as well as a fraud investigator. The testimony comes as federal investigators continue to unravel what prosecutors say may be one of the largest fraud schemes in U.S. history. It stems from a COVID relief case that has already led to dozens of criminal charges and hundreds of millions in alleged fraud, and the totals potentially reaching that $9 billion mark. Taylor.
In Washington, D.C., Kayla Gaskins, thank you. President Donald Trump has unveiled a framework of a new health care policy addressing rising cost of health insurance plans. Now, the White House proposal revolves around putting money into health savings accounts paid directly to individuals instead of subsidies or insurance companies. The plan also calls for codification of President Trump's most favored nation policy to lower drug prices.
All of these proposals that are within the Great Healthcare Plan are incredibly popular with the American people, and they will impact everyone, not just a small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down.
At the end of last year, tax subsidies tied to certain Affordable Care Act plans expired, drastically raising costs for up to 22 million Americans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says Democrats will present their counterproposal in a few weeks.
We'll present a plan that'll help parents afford child care and help families afford health care. Lowering costs will be our North Star, now and for all of 2026.
Earlier this week, Senate did not pass a bill out of the House that would have extended those insurance subsidies for 3 years. Senate Republicans have not unveiled their own plan, and it's still unclear if they will support President Trump's proposal. Well, the U.S. has imposed new sanctions on Iran as deadly protests continue against the regime. The sanctions target a prominent Iranian official and 18 people and companies involved in a shadow banking network linked to Iranian financial institutions. It is believed at least 2,500 protesters have been killed in the last 2.5 weeks. That number could be higher. President Trump has threatened to use the military, but backed down Wednesday after saying planned executions in Iran were canceled. U.S. lawmakers differ over the appropriate response.
We should consult with our regional partners about how we can support a movement towards democracy in Iran, but our regional allies and partners are urging us not to carry out a military strike.
I do believe that help is on the way.
When you say help is on the way, what exactly does that
mean? That means an attack on the regime is the only help that really matters.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent concedes the new sanctions are mostly symbolic. They block access to U.S. assets and businesses, but many of the targets lack U.S. funds. At the White House today, Venezuela's opposition leader meeting with President Trump. Since the capture of former leader Nicolas Maduro, the Trump administration has leaned into working with the current Maduro-aligned government, raising questions about the future of elections in the country. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reporting from Washington.
Exiled from her own country, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado arriving at the White House Thursday to meet with President Trump.
This is a meeting that the president was willing to take and willing to accept, to meet Ms. Machado in person and to just have a frank and positive discussion about what's taking place in Venezuela.
A day earlier, President Trump praising Venezuela's acting president, Nicolas Maduro's former vice president, Delcy Rodriguez.
We just had a great conversation today. And she's a terrific person. I mean, she's somebody that we've worked with very well.
Among the biggest questions following Maduro's capture,
Why didn't President Trump push to install leaders of the opposition party like Machado? Following Venezuela's 2024 presidential election, independent international auditors confirmed opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia received far more votes than Maduro. Despite this, President Trump insists Machado is not respected enough by Venezuelans to lead the country.
I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader.
Sadly, but unfortunately, the vast majority of the opposition is no longer present inside of Venezuela.
But the president seemed to leave the door open when asked this.
If she gives you her Nobel Peace Prize, will that change your view about her running that country?
Well, I have to speak to her. I can't think of anybody in history that should get the Nobel Prize more than me.
After meeting with Trump, Machado heading across town to Capitol Hill to meet with lawmakers.
I think she's clearly going to become the president. There will be free and fair elections. Either they're going to go back and respect the election that was happened where Edmundo Gonzalez won, or they'll have a new election. And when they do, I think Maria will get 90% of the vote.
President Trump not committing to a timeline for when that will be. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
New overnight, at least 26 people have been indicted by federal prosecutors for rigging college basketball games. According to court documents, it started in 2022 in the Chinese Basketball Association. And get this, the indictment then claims the defendants enlisted college basketball players from at least 17 different schools to fix NCAA games. Prosecutors say millions of dollars in wagers were made fraudulently, and the participating players were paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Coming up, the market's reaction to President Trump's executive order on chip sales, how a stroke of the pen could have changed the course of the trading week. Then a warning for chocolate lovers, your sweet treat could make you sick. A nationwide recall you need to know about. Plus, as anti-ICE protests continue, agents fight to stay safe both on the streets and off duty. What's being done to stop federal agent tracking? On Capitol Hill, a look into limiting kids' screen time both in the classroom and at home. A growing number of lawmakers are considering social media limits to help protect America's youth from harmful impacts. Now Congress is moving towards that with a new bipartisan bill.
Technology is fundamentally changing childhood and, in the process, undermining parents and threatening the very health of democracy.
A stark warning about social media and how it's affecting children and teenagers, not just in everyday life, but in the classroom as well.
Our kids are less cognitively capable than we were at their age.
Now Congress is trying to act. The Kids Off Social Media Act, a bipartisan bill reintroduced by Senators Ted Cruz and Brian Schatz, would ban social media for children under 13 and would prohibit social media companies from recommending content using algorithms to those under 17.
This phone-based childhood, predominantly spent on social media, has been documented to lead to social awkwardness, reduced self-confidence, a more sedentary childhood.
In addition, the bill would require schools that receive federal dollars to restrict access to social media on its devices and networks.
The University of Washington released a study last week finding that teenagers spend on average more than an hour per day on smartphones during school hours, and 1 in 4 students spends a quarter of their school day on those personal phones.
A Pew Research survey released last summer showed 74% of U.S. adults would support banning middle and high school students from using cell phones during class. Experts say parents, though, should hold the line when it comes to cell phone and social media use for their children.
Delay giving that smartphone as long as you possibly can. Delay them getting social media for as long as possible.
Around the world, other countries have started having similar discussions. Australia recently implemented a law barring kids under 16 from social media platforms, making it the first country to put such a sweeping ban in place. Taking a look now at America's economy, applications for U.S. unemployment benefits unexpectedly fell last week. That's according to the latest data released by the Labor Department this morning. Initial unemployment claims decreased by 9,000 to 198,000 for the week ending January 10. And that's the first time it's dipped below 200,000 in 2 years. The figure was below most estimates that expected jobless claims to rise. And hey, Wall Street reacting favorably to an unexpected fall in jobless claims. Major stock indices gave back some gains in afternoon trades Thursday. The Dow climbed 0.6% as the S&P 500 rose 0.25 point. By the way, Nvidia surged 2% at close. This comes on the heels of 2 executive orders signed by President Trump yesterday directly related to Nvidia chips.
So they're going to sell chips, basically, and it's a chip. It's not the highest level, but it's a very good level. And China wants them and other people want them, and we're going to be making 25% on the sale of those chips, basically.
Yeah, the executive orders imposed 25% tariffs on some advanced computing chips and prepares for tariffs on critical minerals if needed. The tariffs in the order apply to chips imported to the U.S. that are not used domestically for artificial intelligence purposes, but are then exported to another country. We are tracking a recall covering chocolate bars and salmonella contamination. This is coming from the FDA. Listen up. The brand is Spring and Mulberry, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can see it here on your screen. The company is voluntarily pulling their mint leaf date sweetened chocolate bars from store shelves and online across the country. So the lot number you need to pay attention to is 025255. The bars in question are 2.1 ounce with teal packaging. They were sold online and at stores since September 15th of last year. Good news, though, so far no illnesses have been reported, but still you are urged not to eat the chocolate bars, throw them away. Spring and Mulberry is also offering a refund, according to the FDA. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Washington, where a proposed bill is targeting the sale of stolen copper wire.
Wire theft has become a huge issue in Washington, with thieves like this cutting wires, stripping them down, and then selling them for scrap to get cash. Utility companies are left paying huge repair costs into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We know the copper wire is being sold mostly to local recyclers.
Gary Ernsdorf is a senior prosecutor with King County.
We want to dry up the demand. We want to incentivize the recyclers to say, no, we're not buying this copper wire, because if police can identify it as being recently stolen.
He supports a new proposed bill in Olympia that would require recyclers to hold 10 days and upload pictures of it to a searchable database.
So after one of these big cable cuts, law enforcement can get on a search and see exactly where and when the cable was sold.
The bill would also allow police to seize stolen wires from recyclers.
So the recyclers are going to have a strong incentive to say, no, we're not touching that stuff anymore.
They're easy to buy, but also easy to forget.
gift cards. What many people don't realize is just how often those cards go unused. According to the New York State Comptroller's Office, more than $28 million in unused gift cards were turned over as unclaimed funds in 2025 alone. If a gift card goes unused for 5 years, retailers are legally required to hand that money over to the Office of Unclaimed Funds.
The law is really about protecting people's money and making sure that they can always have a right to claim it. We always encourage, when you receive a gift card, we encourage everyone who receives a gift card to register it. All the gift card companies will have a website or a telephone number that you can call and register your name. So many people, over 150,000 people last year, got a check in the mail that they maybe didn't even expect to get. Once you get a gift card, the best idea is to spend it, right? Don't let it sit idle.
Coming up, the personal info of thousands of ICE agents was just leaked. Why federal officials say we are seeing a rise in doxing and the group they're holding responsible. We're back in 90 seconds. As protests continue to erupt nationwide, so does ICE monitoring and doxing. ICE List, a website that shares the names of federal agents, confirming this week a whistleblower shared the personal information of over 4,000 ICE and DHS employees. The Trump administration saying this rise is directly linked to the dangerous rhetoric coming from some lawmakers and politicians. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, has more.
In its most recent report, DHS says assaults against ICE officers is up 1,300% and death threats up 8,000%. Officials calling the surge a direct result of radical rhetoric by sanctuary politicians, rhetoric that hasn't just led to more violence, but also more ICE monitoring groups and doxing. On the streets of Minneapolis, protesters and ICE agents continue to clash. Talk to me! Which federal officials say has played a major role in the surge of assaults, attacks, and death threats from the streets.
Death threats are up over 8,000%. Actual assaults up 1,300%. I know because threats against me and my family have tripled in the last couple of weeks.
But it's not just violence. ICE monitoring and doxing has seen an increase as well. The founder of ICE List, a website which shares the first and last names of ICE and DHS employees, confirming to the Daily Beast, following the fatal ICE-involved shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis last week, a whistleblower leaked to him the personal info of close to 4,500 federal agents, saying in part, quote, the shooting was the last straw for many people.
These individuals that are out there harassing them while they do that work, doxing their identities, threatening them and their families, it's unacceptable.
DHS attributing the rise to continuous radical rhetoric by sanctuary politicians, saying it creates an environment that demonizes law enforcement and encourages violence.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons.
This is not okay. The way they're coming into cities, not just Minneapolis, but around the country, is not okay.
The New York Post reporting Good was a member of ICE Watch, a national leftist activist group dedicated to documenting, tracking, and resisting ICE operations. Video shortly before she was shot and killed, capturing Good and her wife speaking with ICE.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later.
Now, our research are finding multiple similar ICE watch groups scattered across the country, including national organizations like United We Dream, States at the Core, and ICE List, but also at the local and regional level, like ICE Watch, BAM Migra Watch, and Vecinos Unidos DFW. Vice President J.D. Vance calling the shooting in Minneapolis an attack on federal law enforcement.
That woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job.
Now, while the Trump administration has called the fatal shooting a response to domestic terrorism, many Democratic lawmakers have condemned the ICE agents' actions. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calling it a, quote, abomination, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker another example of the administration ignoring due process. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Coming up, a safe journey home, why a crew of 4 NASA astronauts needed to make an unprecedented trip back to Earth.
SpaceX Dragon copy concurs. Splashdown and names are cut. SpaceX Dragon, it's so good to be home. With deep gratitude to the teams who got us there and back.
It's home sweet home for 4 astronauts on a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, now back on Earth. The crew, 2 American astronauts, 1 Japanese astronaut, and 1 Russian cosmonaut, splashed down in the Pacific Ocean Thursday. They were originally scheduled to stay at the International Space Station until mid-February, but NASA made the decision to bring them home after announcing the cancellation of a planned spacewalk due to a medical issue. Officials at NASA didn't say what the medical concern was or which astronaut was affected by it. Well, the 2025 Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers visited the White House this afternoon. This marks the 2nd time President Trump has hosted the Panthers at the White House in less than a year. The team won back-to-back Stanley Cup titles, with the 2024 championship being the first in franchise history. They are on a roll. The president was presented with another Panthers jersey and another golden hockey stick.
They have something different, because I watched some of the games that it looked like it was going to be tough, and you pulled them out.
During his first administration, President Trump considered Panthers owner and Army veteran Vincent Viola for the position of Secretary of the Army. That's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much for joining us.